Hello and welcome to The Winding Road. I'm your host, Claire Markwick, and I am thrilled to be here. This is a show for the everyday leader, for the community leader, for the small business owner, and for those of you who are listening who wouldn't even consider yourself to be leaders. I'll be bringing you unique stories of real life leadership from across the Albury-Wodonga region to inspire, to empower, and to educate. Throughout this series, I aim to bust the widely held belief that leadership is this corporate buzzword tied to years of tenure or qualification or title. I want you to see through these conversations that it is so much more than that. Each episode also has its own ebook companion, so be sure to head to the show notes section of wherever you're watching or listening to this from to download your free resource and get the most out of this series. Alrighty then, let's get into it. In this episode, I am speaking with Karen Habermann. Karen describes herself as the #1 left-handed operations and engineering guru living the manufacturing dream. She's the operations manager at Albury Precision Engineering, a business she started with her husband some 30 plus years ago. With a career spanning all facets of purchasing, procurement, and industrial engineering, Karen knows a thing or two about getting the most out of her workforce. Her business prides itself on the development of their apprentices. And in her own words, she says, if we turn out duds, we're all screwed. This is hands down one of the most hilarious and fun conversations that I have ever had. Karen's sense of humor and attitude to life, business, and leadership are to be admired. And I know there is so much you're going to take away from this conversation. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Karen, thank you so much for joining me today. I love our conversations. We sort of virtually met, didn't we, a few weeks ago? And yeah, it's just so much fun talking to you. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where this conversation goes. So thank you, first of all, for joining me today.
Oh, cool. I'm happy to be here. And I just hope that we don't have to edit too much for you.
Fabulous. Why don't we start off for people who are coming across you for the first time right now? Can you share a little bit about yourself, what you do, and your sort of a little bit of background as to what's got you to where you are right now?
Oh, good Lord. Well, anybody that would come across me in the first instance would probably take a step back. But anyway, we'll bring it down a notch. So together with my husband, we've been running a engineering company for 30. What year are we in? 2022. Goodness me, 34 years this year.
Wow.
And so I obviously started very young. And
childhood business venture.
Prior to that, we we both worked in private industry. So we often tell people that we're retired arms dealers. And there is some truth behind that, but it's not as not very James Bondish. And then I went and worked in the clothing sector for a while, so that was really character building. And 300 women day in day out, you just sort of go, I might like a little change after that. So so we started it was pretty much just the two of us. We made jail door hinges for our very first job.
Wow.
And it's pretty much gone full circle. So
how did you go? I'm intrigued. How did you go from clothing to jail door hinges? Like, what was that story?
Yeah, well, you just pick up and run with what's presented to you on the day, don't you? So I was trained in purchasing and procurement, and then I moved into industrial engineering and was given the opportunity. At the time, the government actually picked up and ran with the tab for all your tertiary education. So this is, the dinosaurs had just sort of finished roaming the earth back then. So everybody was still finding their way. So yeah, I came out with business management and industrial engineering qualifications. So my husband was off doing his thing and I was off doing my thing. And then we sort of thought, you know what, let's let's do it together. So we sort of just melded our strengths, I suppose. So his weaknesses were my strengths, vice versa. You know, I couldn't turn a lathe on to save myself these days. But yeah, so that's it. And for two people to work together for so long, you know, people go, oh my God, how do you do it? But, you know, it works for us. We've got our routine down pat now. So yeah, it's really good.
That's awesome. And that I would be one of those people going, how do you do it? Like my husband and I, we've got our own businesses, but we share an office. And I am literally at the moment, literally in the process of clearing out a junk room. You know how everybody has a junk room?
Yeah.
And on the house plans, it was described as a sewing room. So it's this little 2.5 by 2.5 meter square room. It's little. And we've just got shit in there, so much shit. But clearing that out is like, I have to do this. I need my space.
Oh yeah.
But
look, we've got our own desks. Sorry, we've got our own desks at work, you know, and mine is a pinnacle of organisation. You know, sometimes when I'm doing stuff, you know, there's shit everywhere, but at the end of the day, it is clean and ready to go. His looks like a workbench. You know, there's not a piece of paper or a pen to be seen on it. You could barely find the mouse. There is just so much rubbish.
Yeah.
I was going to say crap, but you can edit that out. There's just so much crap on there that you just go, it's not the factory, mate. It's a desk. It's where you do emails. You do your we try to be paperless. So where you've got to do your paperwork. So yeah, this morning, like our systems are all electronic, but because we've got so many key people away, he's got to do a big quote. So I've said to Libby, our admin girl, you'll need to print everything out for him so he can scribble on it. You know, everybody else has got, you know, Tom Cruise screens and they're all working away. Old mate, piece of paper and a pen. This is how we do it. So anyway.
As comedic as that is, there is something in that though, isn't there? It's and being very serious just for a moment, and I don't want to lower the tone because I love this fun tone, but being very serious just for a minute. When you're in charge of a group of people, understanding how each individual works best is so important, isn't it?
Oh, very much so. Very much so. And I would have said that, and this is the advice I do give a lot of people, that the minute you take that next step and you employ somebody, you could be the greatest electrician on the face of the planet, but the moment you employ either an apprentice or another electrician or something, you're now a HR manager.
Yep.
Because you know that's what settles on your shoulders, and if they're not happy and if they're not thriving, neither is your business. So 100%. And most people go, oh, don't want to do that. So yeah.
And I see it so much in the small business space because we're technicians, we're the doers of what we do, and then we get this bright spark of an idea of, I'm going to go into business doing this and it's going to be great because I'm so good at doing what I do. I want to work for myself. I don't want to work for other people. I can do it myself. And that's a lot of the problem. That's a lot of what people come to me as a coach for. It's like, oh shit, like suddenly I've got all these people issues to deal with. How has that transition been for you from doer to people manager?
Oh, well, I would say I'm not the best people manager. I'm more of a, you know, if things go wrong, I'm that bullet that ricochets around, you know, and old mate just, you know, he's true and steadfast. He's not, you know, and he just plows through it, you know, and he's dealing with, but we all end up at the same end of the process anyway. It's just like I'm a bit like a blowfly in a bottle. I'm going, oh my God, you know, and I'm these days I do try and be a bit like a one-legged swan. You know, it's all graceful and calm on the surface, but the paddling underneath is just not going quite according to plan. But yeah, the person side of the thing is really important, and if you get it wrong, you're not going to grow. Because you know, without them, it's just you, isn't it? So you know, if they're secure, if they're happy in their job, if they're able to have that stability behind them, then you know, they're going to give you their best, and that makes a hell of a difference, I reckon. So if you can, you know, take, and I feel some people have that problem, like if they're the doers, they want to be up there doing it. And I've got a nephew at the moment, and he's right on the cusp of, you know, taking it to the next level. But he says, I really enjoy doing my trade. I really love it. And I'm going, well, then you need to find somebody that can do that for you. So it's all about a balance, really.
Absolutely.
And yeah, old mate and I just, yeah, we just gel with that. So what he's good at, he'll do, and what I'm good at, I'll do. And if we can't do it, we'll find somebody who is good at it. So yeah.
That's led me really nicely into the next thing I was going to ask. Like when
good job.
Yeah, you did well there. We prepped this really well, didn't we? Something that I hear so often is, you know, oh, I can't do that because I'm not skilled enough. I can't do that because I don't have this qualification. I can't do that because of this. I can't do that because of that. My response to that is no one ever has all the answers before we do something. No. You know, just think of parenthood. We never even sleep in the same bed as our partner if we knew what was to come with having kids, kind of thing. So like
never a truer word, honey.
100%. So you've kind of answered it, but I'm going to ask it again anyway. Sure. Like when there are situations where you have no idea and hubby has no idea, like what do you do then? Like what is your go-to?
Look, if you'd asked me that 30 odd years ago, I would have probably fallen in a puddle on the floor. But these days, everybody has access to the internet. If it's not on the internet, it's not worth knowing. So, let your fingers do the walking. And, you know, I would have said during the, thanks to that man eating a bat and putting us all where we are now, with the, you know, the rise of the Zooms and the Teams and the, God, what was the old-fashioned one? Somebody mentioned that to me the other day, and I went, "Oh my God, is that still around?" When you used to make, anyway, it's like a Zoom, but it doesn't matter. It's gone.
Yeah. Skype, is that what we're talking
about? Skype,
yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to make a Skype, and I went, "What?"
How old school are you?
Yeah. It's a bit like I'm going to send a fax. Anyway. It must have been my dad, I think. I'm going to do a Skype, you know. Anyway, what were we saying? Sorry.
We were talking about knowing all the answers, not having to know all the answers before you do something. So when COVID hit, you know, you just bombarded left, right, and centre from a lot of misinformation. Mm-hmm. So you pick channels that you know that are going to work for you. And I found a few for me, and one of them actually happened to be based in the UK, and from that developed another network of people who without COVID I would never have met, that have been really quite informative for me. And they've got nothing to do with the day-to-day running of the business, but they're people that are so clever that they've allowed me to, at a time when I feel like, oh, I need to be hunkered down with everybody in the business, I'm actually able to take a little step back and be on the business. So, you know, sitting not up high, because that's not how I roll, but just a step back going, all right, this is the bigger picture, and how can I make that happen for you? And to pull that off, it's not about knowing everything, it's knowing where to find it. And I think once you're able to do that, the world's your oyster. 100%. Everybody can dominate the world. I'm all for world domination. Yeah. I love that, and it's an analogy I always use back in my accounting days, because the Income Tax Act is this big thick book. If you're listening just to the audio of this, like, and you can't see my fingers right now, think like 3 or 4 inch thick book of tiny little text, and it changes every year, sometimes multiple times a year. A new version will come out, and people would say to me, how do you know all that stuff? I'm like, I don't. I don't. There is a contents page at the front, and I know which page to turn to when I come to something that I don't know about, kind of thing. And
I know.
and
And how good's the old PDF now? You don't even have to read it. You've just got to type in the keyword, and voila, there it is. Well, I love it.
Exactly.
Love it.
So there's a massive, massive learning there, isn't there, for anyone listening who's saying to themselves, I really want to do that, but I can't until I've got this qualification. I really want to do that, but I can't until I've got this.
Yeah, just Google it.
Google it.
There's my advice. There's my advice, everybody. Google it.
Leadership advice 101. Just Google it. I love it.
Yeah.
I get the impression, I don't know, I could be completely wrong. I get the impression you bring a lot of fun and realism and relatability to your leadership. That's how it comes across anyway.
Well, I know you.
What is important to you? What is great leadership to you? What does that mean?
Oh my God. Well, look, I'm in the throes of, so we employ 5 apprentices. So I'm all about training people, and even our middle and senior managers, you're never too old to stop learning. So 2 of them, we just put them through a qualification in certificate something or other in leadership and management. And what they might have got the piece of paper, but everybody else has learnt from them. So their leadership style now, they've got what do they call it now? EQ, emotional intelligence. They had it, but now that they know that they've got it, that little bit of confidence behind that now, and it trickles down the factory. So, and the only reason we have all of these apprentices is we can't find decent tradesmen, so they may as well learn our bad habits from day one. So and Linton has always been an advocate for, you can't complain about a shortage of skilled tradesmen if you're not part of the solution. So part of the solution is we used to do a new apprentice every second year. Now it's 1 every year, sometimes 2, just depending on where they're at and what we're doing. So, that's our contribution to society. But getting back to the question, because I'm pretty sure I haven't answered it, is so me, I prefer, and it probably comes from the overarching purpose of the company is that we don't want to be in the limelight. We step back. So everything that we do ends up, apart from 2 product items that are our proprietary products, everything else goes into somebody else's machine, and you would never know that we've had our fingers in that pie. So, everything from way up in the stratosphere to deep down in the earth and everything in between has had our sticky little fingers on it. Yes. So my management style is step back and let the others shine. So
I think that's such a massive thing. Like you make it just sound so easy. It's just like, just step back and let others do all the work, kind of thing. Yeah. But like, it can be that's a really hard thing to actually, I know from my experience, I found that a really hard thing to step into, because like we were talking about earlier, when you're the technician, when you're the doer, you want to do, and you want to do your way. But actually, when you're employing other people and when you're developing other people, it's a bit like parenting, my hubby put nappies on different to how I put nappies on. And at first I wanted to say, no, that's not how you do it. But at the same time, the end result was the same. We didn't have wee and poo everywhere. And I guess, well, we did sometimes, but anyway, I guess it's the same sort of situation, isn't it? Like, we have to let go of a little bit of control to ultimately retain control of our business as it grows. Did that question make sense?
Yes, it does. Well, was it a question?
Well, it wasn't a question. It was more a statement.
No. But, being a recent grandmother, I will take the nappy advice on board. Yes, and it's been a long time since I've had to change a nappy. I could never use God forbid, they still had pins back in the day, and I could never get the pin through all the things, and somebody found me a little plastic doohickey. But now they're all snaps. It's just like, oh, come on, people, you've got it so good. Come on.
Exactly.
I'm starting to sound like my grandmothers, but anyway.
So what I'm taking from what we've talked about, like no, I love this. This is my style. This is good. But let's bring it back. We're talking about creating an environment where you're inspiring people to work to their best.
Well, otherwise I can't retire.
100%. If the day-to-day running relies on you being there 9 to 5 every single day, then you're not creating a business ultimately, are you? You've got a job.
No.
So your job as a leader is to basically make yourself redundant, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I was, and for people that can't see, it's about a bee's dick's width of pulling that off, and I did such a good job that old mate said, you know what, your replacement's so good, I'm going to have her. So I'm back to square one. So he went and pinched her, and now he's running with her, and she's running the place, and I'm just going, wait, why am I still here?
What happened? That was supposed to be my exit plan.
That was it. Anyway,
I love that.
I'm always up for a challenge.
You're at that point now, and a couple of times through the stories that we've been sharing, you've said, ask me that 30 years ago, it would have been different. Ask me that 30 years ago, that would have been different. What have you learned along the way? How has your leadership style, how you get the most out of yourself and your team, how has that changed in the 30 plus years you've had this business?
Well, I would have said when we started out, I certainly wasn't a leader. I was more of a manager. So, Google that. There is a difference. But, and look, don't get me wrong. There are days that I go to work and I just go, could somebody just give me some paperwork? I just want to sit here and plow through the paperwork. And never lose sight of that, because there's always little secrets buried in there that you go, hang on a minute, what's going on here? So and to this day, and it really does annoy me because we're pretty much paperless, every job that comes through the building has a top sheet cover on it, and it goes past old mate's desk. So he's got down to a point now that if he sees the month's invoicing and it's this thick, he goes, you know what, that's a pretty good month. If it's this thick, he's going, well, wait a minute, what's going on? And and then he'll start to ask some questions. So you don't need to read a profit and loss and a balance sheet to know what's going on. You just walk around and have a look. If everybody's busy and engaged and stuff, you can see what's going on. If the apprentice is standing there blubbering at their machine, hello, have we broken up with the girlfriend? Dunno. Let's go find out. So it's about seeing and doing. And if you're sitting in your ivory tower, then and I'm not sort of indicating that there's this difference between the people that work for you or with you and you yourself. If you're not actively engaged in what's going on, you're not going to see it, are you?
100%.
So,
but there is a difference, and you touched on it. There is a difference between being actively engaged and involved in what's going on and controlling what's going on. And no. And micromanaging is one of because our son works with us as well, and he he goes, I can't micromanage everybody. And we're going, no, I don't want you to. No, you probably better leave this out in case he ever listens to it. I'm going, no, you're not micromanaging. You're supervising, mate. There's a subtle difference, the whole, give a man a fish and he's fed for the day. You give him a boat, and he's fed his family, and give him a fleet, and hello, he's helped the economy. So come on, just look at it. And he has turned the corner. He's certainly this last month when we've had the
COVID sniper picking out people. He's not been one of them yet, so he hasn't been shot. I mean, he's vaccinated, but he hasn't been like, you know,
got.
You know what I'm saying? He's actually stepped up. So, and again, I have a sneaking suspicion because his father's not in the building. So, you know, and it's all about balance. So if dad's there to do that, you know, I'll just go off and do this. But if dad's nowhere to be found, well, someone's got to do it. And and I, you know, I just, I do have two management styles. I probably shouldn't be saying this, but I do have two management styles, one for the employees and one for my son. They're completely different. But you know what? I haven't changed 16 other people's bottoms. So, you know, I have a bit of rank and privilege when it comes to him. So, yes.
I think like there's nothing wrong with that either, is there? Because, you know, like I've always said, you know, I'm just thinking of the example that's just popped in my head now is, you know, around the public swimming pool kind of thing. Like my boys run around the edge of the pool constantly, and then they'll flip in the pool. They don't hear me when I say walk and jump in, don't flip in. They don't hear me, and if they hear me, they'll go and do the opposite anyway. So I'll keep my mouth shut and I'll let the lifeguard say, "Hey boys, can you walk?" Because they'll listen to them. So I think there is, when you're working with family, I think there is a need for a slightly different way of communicating.
And you know, I would never in 100 years speak to anybody else and say, "Oh, for God's sake, Ashley, shut up," you know. It would be, yes, I hear what you're saying, however, to anybody else. But, you know, Ashley, I'm just, you know, I'm too, and he knows my buttons as well. So it's not just a one-sided thing. He knows how to get me cranky very quickly. And whereas everybody else will at least do it in a more practical method, in just like, do we want to fire Karen up today? Not really sure we want to do that, but you know, Ash just sees it as a challenge. But yeah, anyway, I'm sure we're off topic, darling. Sorry.
No, totally not on topic, and it actually segues again beautifully. We've got this so well planned. Because I wanted
anybody would think you've done this before, darling.
I know, right? Talk to me about challenges, because when you are in business for yourself, you know, we go into business for ourselves to create an amazing life. We go into business for ourselves to create a life that we want to lead. However, that doesn't mean that it's always a bed of roses, does it? There are going to be challenging times. And when it is our own business, there is no boss to fall back on. Like, we are the ones that have to fix So what is your thinking around that? I mean, you've alluded to COVID. Like, every single person in the whole wide world is affected by COVID right now, whether you share a COVID example or something else. But when you face challenge, what is it that you call on that helps you get through that? Google?
Probably. Hey Google, how do I get out of this shit? Oh, hang on, she's trying to answer in the other room. I'm sorry, I don't understand. Anyway, look, I would have said, I have a little phrase, SSDD, same shit, different day, and sometimes it's different depth, you know. So, you know, sometimes you're tiptoeing through the tulips, and then other days, you know, you're in this quagmire, just wondering, how on earth am I going to get out of it? And I revert back to my engineering training, and I break it down into bits. Now, I'm not a list person. I probably am, because at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm going, all right, I've now got 7 things on my list, and I probably need to write them down before I forget them. There's nothing worse than waking up again at 5:30 going, now there's 7 things that were keeping me awake and I can only remember 4. So don't ever try and write notes by your bedside table either, because if you do it, you'll work out that you're an alien, because you can't actually read this new handwriting that has magically appeared overnight. So yes, get up, write them down. But I break them down, you know. And there are some instances where people have come to me and, you know, what are we doing? And I said, hang on a minute, I've just got to finish I've got to get through this next half an hour first before I focus on the thing. If you try and look at what's going to happen in front of you, you know, if it's a crappy day or a crappy week or a crappy month, if you break it back down into manageable chunks and you can go, all right, I've ticked that off. I've survived that last hour. We're all still here. You know, if I can, you know, segment it, there's a way forward. You know, and sometimes you might go back a bit, but you're all right, well, hang on. And that's the other thing. We're given the type of industry that we're in, a lot of people come to us with concepts, ideas and whatever, and you know, we don't design it for them because it's their product, not ours, but we help them in the process and we encourage them to fail quickly. So, you know, go off on this tangent, work out why it doesn't work, but do it quick, because you don't want to put too much time, you don't want to put too much energy into it, but you need to learn from it at the same time. And that's probably how we train our people as well. You know, give them that little bit of rope. You know, not necessarily to hang themselves, but certainly give them a bit of rope burn so that they've learnt something from the experience, so they won't do it again. You know, the other day I had a brand new boy who's only been working with us for 3 days give himself concussion because he stood up too quick under the thing of the forklift. So I went, well, are you going to do that again? No. So, you know, we've learned something from that, you know. It's just anyway, just one of those things.
There's massive, again, I keep coming back to parenting. Oh my God. But there's massive, there's so many overlaps. And I was having a conversation with someone about this just before. Like, there are so many overlaps. Like, you don't need to go to uni and get a degree in operational leadership to lead a team of people. No. You just need to have a kid.
Yes, quite right.
Or a dog, and something.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And my daughter posted a picture on Insta the other day, and you know, she's on mat leave from her job, and the nesting instinct was very strong with her, so much so she's created a following on Instagram, and she's giving people all this advice on how best to you know, be organized in their homes. And she's got this shot of her with the child and this chaos behind her, you know, but the chaos can be dealt with. You know, she's fine, the baby's fine, this mess, and there's something to be said about that, it's behind you. So you know, only if you turn around is it facing you. So, you know, just look forward, as sometimes like this, but you know, but
that is
just, and work out what's important. You know, a lot of this shit isn't important.
You're so right. You're so right. I was pondering that one for a moment, but you are absolutely so right. The amount of stuff that we can burden ourselves with, that we stress ourselves, we stress over, and it weighs us down and it keeps us up at night. Actually, I mean, so sidetracking, a big thing that I do, like, I have a lot of stuff circling around my brain all the time, and I am a big advocate for write it down, write it down, just get it out. And your piece of paper is going to look chaotic. It's going to be a mess. There's going to be some business stuff, some parenting stuff, some jobs you got to do around the house, whatever it might be. But I write it down. And then when you actually look at that list, it's like, so there's a whole A4 paper, a whole A4 page of shit here. Actually, probably about 5 of them are important. The rest are not. And it just goes to show, doesn't it, how easily we can bog ourselves down. And that translates through for
absolutely
every element of life and leadership and business. What have you got things, and this is a really interesting, I love hearing people's answers to this question. Prepare yourself. Have you got things that you have learned that you need to have in place so that you can function? Have you got like non-negotiable things? Are there rules? Are there things that you have to do each day? Do you start your day the same way? Do you have to have things in place so that you can function?
Oh, well, I think there's nothing that's not negotiable. So I would say, you know, a cup of tea in the morning, that's, you know, if you want me in a good mood for the day, it needs to be made exactly how I like it. Otherwise, everybody else suffers. So
that is a non-negotiable.
Yeah, consequently, I don't make it. My darling husband does. So that's probably the first non-negotiable of the day. And that's probably the only one, really. And look, a lot of people say to me, you know, like, because we work in the business and, you know, at the minute it's running from 5:30 in the morning till 6 at night. And people are going, well, what are you doing for downtime? And old mate's got his toys and his shed, and I'm sitting in my little lady cave at the moment. And, you know, you find the ways to de-stress.
Yep.
And what works for you. So, you know, if somebody's got to sit and meditate for half an hour in the morning, you know, and if that's in the lotus position or if it's on Candy Crush, you know, who gives a rat's ass about, you know, what that is. But, you know, if you've got the mindset going. But no, there's nothing. The only other thing is my pens. If somebody has stolen my pen, because but we did come up with a system that the girls in the office use coloured pens. So if there's a coloured pen floating around in the factory, you know somebody's pinched it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, there's nothing that I need to get me through a day. Probably said the cup of tea.
Other than the cup of tea. Yeah, I love that pen thing. One of my very early jobs, I worked in a car dealership on the front reception desk.
Yep.
And the amount of times a salesman would come down the stairs and they'd grab the pen because they'd want a pen to write the person's name down, and then they'd walk off with it. It would do my head in. And I started buying pink fluffy pens, and, you know, like the kids' pens with like the sparkles on them and things like that. I'm like, this is my pen. If I see that in any of your lapel pockets, I know you've stolen my pen.
Well, before a QR code was actually a thing, we used to have a pink and a blue fluffy ostrich at the front for people to sign in at, because we knew they wouldn't steal those pens. So that's how we combated that. You know, if you want to stick a pink fluffy ostrich pen in your top pocket and pretend it's yours, I challenge you on that.
Oh, that's so funny. How would you, so this is going to sound like a completely random conversation change from Pink Flamingos.
Okay.
Tell me, because this is something I find really fascinating because it's different for everyone. What does success look like for you? What is your
that's easy, sweetheart. That's just waking up in the morning.
It is a successful day. I have woken up.
Woohoo!
We're on to a winner today.
Yeah, that's it.
If I get the appropriately made cup of tea.
Look, anything after that's really a bonus, isn't it?
100%.
I don't know. Look, I'd go back to that, the old caveman thing. You know, if you've got food, clothing, and shelter, there's not much more you need, is there?
Yeah. No.
So, and yeah, if I can provide those for the people that we work with, then, you know, everybody's having a good day. So 100%. Yeah, I don't know how success is going to be different for absolutely everybody.
Yep.
So maybe we should Google it.
Hey Google, how do you define success?
Yes.
But I mean, you've hit the nail on a really important head there, and it comes back to what you were speaking about earlier about priorities and knowing what's important, isn't it? It's you know, it's not the what I'm taking from what you've said. It's not the grandeur of an amazing house and the latest car or the latest mobile phone or going on holidays or whatever. It's the basics. It's knowing that at our core we're looked after, and everything else from there is a bonus. That's a great attitude to live life by, isn't it? Because love it.
And as long as my roof doesn't leak with all this stupid weather we're having, you know, life's good.
100%. I'm going to leave you with I don't know, another interesting question, one to ponder. If you could give your 21-year-old self one piece of advice from all the lessons you've learned through life to now, what would it be?
So I'm 21. Jeez. God.
Which obviously isn't that long ago.
That's another podcast, darling. Look, I had when I was at school, I had aspirations that I wanted to be an archaeologist. And my mother said, "Oh, don't be so silly. Everything's been discovered." So, I did used to periodically remind her that no. I think it was Richard III's grave was dug up in a London car park in the 1980s. I went, see? Not everything. But anyway, I digress. But advice to my 21-year-old self, and that's really tricky, because if I follow that advice, I don't end up where I am now. All right, and I'm quite happy with where I am now. So if I was miserable, I would have said, I would have paid more attention in school, I think. Just pay attention. There's a reason why we have 2 eyes and 2 ears and only 1 mouth. So shut up, look and listen, is probably what I would have told myself. Yes. All right.
Love it. But then really keep on keeping on. Ultimately, as you say, every experience shapes us, doesn't it? And takes us to where we need to be. If
I was smarter and not a smart ass, I'd be you and I wouldn't be having this conversation. You'd probably be having to, speak through one of my people and make an appointment. I don't know. It'd be really cool to have a look at if you'd done one thing, to see how you'd actually ended up. What was it? Was it in Harry Potter or something? You could look in a mirror and see all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But, yeah. No,
one of those sliding doors moments as well. Like,
yeah.
That way.
I don't know.
That way.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to do that. Because
ultimately, you like where you're at. That's awesome.
Well, that's it. And if you're not, there's nothing you can do about it now anyway, is there? You have to Google it.
To change my life.
Yeah. Be really interesting to see how you intro this now, from nappies to Google and beyond. That's it.
Oh, Karen, this has been such a fabulous conversation. I've had so much fun. Thank you so much. I trust everyone listening is going to have taken something that they're going to just go, oh my God.
Oh, no, you're too kind, sweetheart. It's my pleasure, and you're very brave for talking to me. So yes.
Love it. Thank you so much.
All right, darling. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to The Winding Road. If you've loved this conversation, you'll be pleased to know there is an ebook to accompany this episode. In there, you will find all sorts of resources, including a written transcript of the conversation, the key learning points we chatted about, and the contact details for my guest. Be sure to grab your copy from the show notes section of wherever you're listening to this episode.